Production for season 8 was different than anything I've ever experienced. And, I've been in the game for a very long time, probably getting on to 40 years, actually. So, but whoever, this is a once in a actually once in a century event, this pandemic we all had to deal with. So, the coordination from an engineering and a logistical point of view was extraordinary. We happen to have two teams. It's sort of bifurcated in that way, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. Both of them did great work getting the season prepared. One of the silver linings was that the scripts were far more ready to be, disseminated, passed out, distributed. They had the idea, they were able really to coalesce the ideas for what was going to happen in season 8 because they had more time because of the pandemic. And I think that to some extent, any time that, there are from time to time in unforeseen events, sometimes tragic, unforeseen benefits. And one of that is that there's never a downside in preparing for a piece of work, art, culture. Time is always good for us. We also have to have deadlines, and with this particular crew, they were able to meet those, and we were able to carry off 22 episodes this season, which makes us in very rarefied air. So God bless them, they did a terrific job. One of the great things about doing so many episodes of this, now we're at 170 or so episodes of the show, we are beholden to the fans, and they come back, I think, for a couple of reasons. And I think that formula that we have, the recipe, really has remained stable. That is, that we have a great amount of acting talent. We have, because we're in New York City, we have access to some of the greatest actors in the world. And of course, because of things like airplanes and the progress that we made in the early part of the season, we mostly cast locally, but we were, toward the end of the season, able to get cast from other places, Los Angeles and so forth. And I think we keep delivering the action and the intrigue. So that's the AIA, the acting, the intrigue, and the action. This is, even when I just tune in to the show from time to time, that not keeping up with it in the regular queue of the show, which I'm up to date with. But from time to time, I'll go back and revisit an episode to do some research for something that's being paid off in a current episode. And I'm impressed, frankly, by how good the show is. Without, I don't think, an exorbitant budget, without all the bells and whistles, the CGI and all that stuff. We don't have that all the time. But we have now a core cast with a masterful actor and actress in Megan and James, and a bunch of great team players. I like to compare it to the NBA a lot. You can win a championship with a team of 5 or 6 people. It's really 15 on that team. But that said, with 2 stars and some great support and role players around them. And that's what we've got here. So that's what the fans love, and we like giving it to them. One of the great things about television shows, one that's gone on this long, is that you get to tell a long-form story. And you see things that have been set up that you actually have the time to resolve. And I think to some extent, the fact that he entangled with her in the first episode, the pilot episode of this, where she really doesn't have any idea who this man that's demanding to speak to her, having, turned himself in, once that entanglement happens, it's a curious law about physics. We talk about the entanglement principle. They talk about the God particle, a particle that once it has had a connection with another particle can be on opposite sides of the universe and do the same thing. They're exactly the same. They are 2 things at one time. And so they're identical. And I think that first entanglement has resulted in this. It was inevitable. They were going to have to, at some point, unless she's going to have to either join with him or go against him. That's just what happens through the course of time. It was inevitable, and I'm so glad. I'm frankly very excited that we're at this crucible, and I want to see how it turns out myself.